like the explosion though.
Yeah.
Good morning, good noon, good evening, whatever time and place you listen to us from, straight from the Mountainers. Forgot how long that went. Mark, the realist.
Yo.
We got Cam Gnarly in the building.
Yes, sir, Ski.
Myself, Nesquick, and together that's hip hop.
hip-hop.
Please don't forget to like and subscribe. It really does mean a lot. Today we're fellowshipping with one of the dopest artists out here in the inland, known for his vibrant style and dedication to uplifting his community. Cam blends smooth, laid-back flows with reflective, often uplifting lyrics rooted in West Coast hip-hop. His music features soulful beats and funk-inspired rhythms that create this mellow yet dynamic sound. Gnarly emphasizes positive messaging, often reflecting on personal growth, self-love, and community empowerment. His signature Posi wave approach blends modern hip-hop aesthetics with a philosophical and optimistic outlook, making his tracks both relatable and motivational. His commitment to spreading positive vibes through platforms like Thought Fest and other festivals that he's done helped carve a unique space in hip-hop, in this hip-hop genre. Through his music and activism, he remains a key figure in representing the energy and resilience of San Bernardino. From low pro to go pro, Mr. Cam Gnarly, welcome to the show, my G.
Yo, thank you, bro. That was nice. That was nice.
It's dope to finally have you on. I'm genuinely a big fan of yours. I came into the fold kind of late, but dude, nonetheless, I started hearing you because I knew Adrian, personally from just high school and stuff like that. So I always seen you in the circles of like him and Pablo and stuff like that. Yeah. And then I just started hearing your tracks and stuff, and I'm like, oh dang, that's a dope flow. Like it's just it's melodic, but it's just like chill. But then it's like rooted with the deeper layer of like actual dope messaging behind it. I guess the posse movement.
Yeah.
That's such a dope thing, and you started with that so early. Where did that come from?
I used to say this thing to myself, and I can't remember what it was. It was like something like an idea that I used to have about like something along the lines. I used to say it, and I don't remember it. It's kind of like that Inception kind of thing. Like It's so deeply rooted, I don't know what it is, like what it used to be, but it had something to do with like treating people how you want to be treated, or like reciprocating a certain amount of energy, and then around the time like where I came up or where I grew up and who I grew up around, I just started seeing a lot of stuff in a very interesting way that made me be like, oh, I'm like getting charged up from like all these bad things that are happening. Like all, this shit is what makes the story of the, the bonds and the family and this like the early days. So somewhere in there, like living that and like feeling that, like Posi or like positivity started to like be a real intentional thing. Like before I won't even think I was on that. Like you saying low pro to go pro, like that was a whole nother idea. You know what I'm saying? Like I was living a different type of life and I wanted to take it in a professional way. But Posi came like after that, like in that space where I was like, oh, okay, this is how I have to do that.
It actually flew over my head the first time. Like Posi, I didn't get it. I didn't know that was short for positive. Like to me, I was thinking like Posi, like, as a group or something. Like it totally went over my head. And then when I came back and realized what that was, I was like, oh damn, that's dope.
Yeah.
Because you like shortened it and like, just kind of made it like if you know kind of thing. Like this is the movement.
Yeah. That was really the idea too. Back then it was like more about I really liked artists that have like mystery and shit like that. Like shit that made people like, what is that? Or where they go or that kind of thing. So it really made me start thinking about it differently as it's going on, because before it became like if you know kind of thing. So now it's in the space of like not just Posi anymore, but now it's just like just to be very positive, and like that being the growth from those early days, like the Posi, because that was a very like, oh, like if you're tapped in with what we doing, we keeping it Posi and not even like in a trying to prove it kind of way. Like that's just what we on. Yeah.
Now is that actually, because some local artists around here kind of also follow that same vibe. Yeah. Like I would say A-Brook could kind of follow that vibe, as well as Noah James.
Yeah.
Follows that vibe. I mean, you guys just recently went on like a tour and all that stuff. Keeping it. What was the title of that tour?
It was a very majestic, very positive tour.
Yeah. Very majestic, positive. It was like
in your own way, you've kind of built built conscious rap over here for the IE
in
general, but you did it at a level to where you're like, no, I'm not going to emulate these people, but I'm going to do it from the inside out internally.
Yeah, I feel like that that goes with everybody mentioned right there. Like, it's not either of us or any of us trying to emulate each other, but it is a like-mindedness and like an energy thing or a vibe thing, you know, like musically. For example, you know, when we did that tour recently, I bumped into some artists in Arizona, and I never met them before, but the music and the lyrics and the tonality and the messaging and the way that they're delivering the message, you can deliver a message like straight, you know, a sign on a piece of paper and like, you know, think positive, or you could, you know, sauce it up a little bit and let people find their way to it kind of thing. And I feel like you could have that like-mindedness with other artists. And I feel like over here in the time period of when I started making music and like collaborating with others, not even so much some shit that I just made for myself, but something that I participated in with a lot of other people who, you know, kind of had, like I said, that like-mindedness.
Yeah, it's pretty dope, dude. I mean, it's different. It's different because, like, not only are you touching on good vibes, but you're also touching on the realism of what goes on out here. I mean, you live in San Bernardino or the Dino. I mean, notoriously known as a city that's rough in the United States. So how is it that you're like keeping these positive vibes in a city that's notoriously known to be rough?
Yeah, not with the best associations at all.
A very intentional choice. Like, I just feel like San Bernardino, my experiences in San Bernardino, the stories of those that I've known, like, it was already, I was already thinking in that concept early. Not even so much like that, but it's like, you know, shit is happening, friends are dying, you know, it's tight, it's hard for me. I'm avoiding situations. I have to decide or choose to avoid situations. Otherwise, I can go this way or this way. It was very illustrated in front of me through other people's actions and decisions, what will lead to what. So it's just an active choice, one that kind of, you know, just plays a part in it all.
And amidst all that, when did you feel within yourself to find hip hop as an outlet for this expression?
Hip hop it's a, you know, such a deeply rooted art form in my own, like, my blackness. Like, my whole life, music and hip hop and soul and gospel, those things blend into hip hop. So, like, if those genres were my parents, hip hop was the one that I grew up with. Like, it's just like, it's a part of me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I look at these artists and this music as like a time capsule that tells my own my history, like my ancestry, my, you know, the stories of what was happening to me and people who look like me at the, you know, throughout the time period of hip hop's origin. So I'm super, I'm not just like into it, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is what it is. Like, it's as common as, you know what I'm saying? Like, whatever I do every day.
You know what's dope about you is, like, you know, you just have, you have these catchy flows and hooks, dude. It's something that really sets you apart from, like, other artists that I've heard, because you also have that element to you that you're able to, like, switch it up.
Yes.
And I'm just curious, you know, as a amateur artist myself, like, did you always kind of have that? Because it seems like you're really good at making hooks. Like, you're really good at it.
I don't even.
Before even recording, like, did you ever, like, hum tunes or, like,
oh, yeah.
Like
well,
that?
yeah, I sang in the choir. That's what I was about to say, too. Like, I feel like my understanding of, like, the scales of music and, like, how to change my voice up and stuff like that, all that kind of comes from, like, when I was singing in church and I was singing in the choir as a little kid, like, stuff that I went to a performing arts elementary school in Fontana, Rupert Hills, a long time ago. And I was just introduced to stuff, and I feel like a lot of that kind of led back into how, like, the stuff that I'm doing now, because that was just shit I was just doing as a kid. So I feel like doing hooks and stuff like that, it's a mixture of, like, loving hip hop and, like, liking these particular things, and then them influencing me to make my own kind of thing. Like, I just heard so much.
Typically, MCs are, like, geared more verse. They're more verse centric than they are the hook.
Yeah,
and I'm guilty of that. Like, I fall into that where I focus on the verse first, and I'm not even thinking about the hook until later. Are you doing it in that same order, or do you do the hook first and then you do verses? or is it like it doesn't matter? Like it just happens.
It kind of depends on like which way the process I'm working on that day. Say I'm working on a beat and I just got a beat and I want to write to that. I'll write to that. Say I'm just writing off of nothing, I just have a thought and I write it down, and then I try to adapt it to whatever best suit what I'm saying or how I want to say it for that beat. But I like to write to. I mean, of course I'm writing verses, but I used to joke with my cousin all the time. Like I'm writing every verse like a hook. Everything's a hook.
Because that's what makes it so catchy. You say phrases like "it'd be like that on my Saturday night." I'm like, dang, that's like a freaking,
it's on like my side of the nine.
Oh,
Saturday night.
My bad. But still melodic where it still catches you.
Oh yeah, well that's the music I like though too. Yeah. Like I guess I'm just like putting out the shit that I be hearing, or like the stuff that I think is slick, like or something that's really catchy. Because being catchy is a part of connection. You know, if I can catch you and then you can get into it and you really fuck with it, I'm just trying to get people to connect with it. Yeah. So sometimes the catchier the better, even if it's on a different kind of beat.
Yeah. What artists were in your rotation growing up? Growing up as a kid in Fontana, San Bernardino area?
Man, like Mace and Cameron.
We just covered Mace.
Yeah, that was the first tape I ever bought. Was a Mace. It Feel So Good.
Oh, the single?
The single. And then also like R&B stuff. I think the other tape we bought was Usher, Nice and Slow at that time too. And
that was big.
Like my parents used to take me to stuff though too. Like I used to go to Criss Cross concerts and stuff. Like I was like 4 or 5 years old, so I was just always into music, like very much, like turn it on, like hey, turn it on. So like early hip hop stuff, like Criss Cross and shit like that. I loved Kid and Play as a baby, like when I was really young, and then like after that, like I got really into like Jay-Z and Biggie and Lil Wayne, Rockefeller Records, basically anything on Rockefeller. Yeah. Anything Rockefeller, I was probably listening to that. Anything Cash Money, I was probably listening to that. The No Limit stuff, the Native Tongue movement, all that, like, Tribe Called Quest. I used to listen to Midnight Marauders like every single day. Like, so a mixture, I guess, like a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
Keep bouncing.
For real.
So amidst all your concert going and actually being into hip hop at that point, was there ever a definitive moment where you said, I want to do that?
I think there's like 3 or 4. I remember the first one. I've talked about it before, but it's never too bad to remember again. But I remember being on a football bus, 9th grade, and RP the homie Holland Atkins, Cool H. If you know him, you know from Dino. Cool H, RP Cool H, long live Cool H. But I remember him rapping on the bus, and it was 9th grade freshman football. That was the first time I seen something like that. And like I said, I loved rap. I loved hip hop and so much, but I never thought about doing it myself because I feel like I never saw anyone do it in front of me in that way that connected with me. Like, I knew other rappers and stuff like that, but at that time I was a kid thinking about other things, but rap music was always present. But anyway, bro was freestyling on the bus, and I just remember being like enamored, like, oh my God, like, and I thought about that like for days after, and I was like, how the hell did he do that? And how come I can't, like, or can I, you know what I'm saying? Like, so then I just started thinking like that, trying to think in raps and like, whatever that means, like try to think like that and then study stuff and then, try to freestyle and because I wanted to do that. I wanted to do what I saw. So I started to freestyle, and I was trash. I was trash at the beginning, but I got really good like later on.
All our early work on sound recorder.
Dude, we can take you on Bandcamp right now. That stuff is trash.
The mic. Trash. Did you ever use a mic and then the it picks up too much audio and you have to put a sock over it?
Yeah. Oh man, I was we did it in the recording in the closet, recording off the headphone, recording to a tape recorder because that's something like I said, I was trying to freestyle. So. And I had no writing process, so I thought, and I looked up to Wayne and Biggie and Jay-Z, so I thought, I gotta not write anything. Like I gotta be able to go in there and make something off the top of my head. Such
put yourself
stupid
through the
challenge, But I started freestyling. I got good enough for people to.
Do you imagine
take me
starting
serious.
off that way?
Putting yourself at that kind of handicap really sets yourself up to be like, to where it gets more tame as you go down, as you get older and like more mature.
Yeah.
But you still know that, hey, look, I can at least do this to some degree.
Oh yeah. And those are my early, getting into ciphers and going to freestyles and things like that, like like building blocks and that's where I bumped into like Noah and stuff like that when they were doing Common Ground a long time ago, and like, you know, kind of coming up in that, like just watching people freestyle, like, you know, like the homie Vision who passed away recently, like, you know, watching those guys freestyle like that, like your man's that you were talking about who did the thought, like that kind of thing. That's my favorite thing about it. And then if you can capture that kind of energy into a song, like that's, you know, and I got challenged to do that. Once I got to the point where people enjoyed what I was doing, even if I was just freestyling, you know, I had other people who were better at, who could freestyle as well, and then started pushing me into songwriting. And then that was a whole nother, you know, challenge of like learning to write every day and, you know, having to go through that. But
damn. So let's start talking about some of your music. You have a dope catalog, dude. And what's crazy is like, you know, I came in late in the fold, so like there's all these albums like back that I have to go back and listen to.
Yeah.
And then I thought, I was like, okay, I think I got to the beginning, and then I'm like, nope. You know, I saw your Bandcamp, and I'm like, oh no, there's some more.
Oh yeah, stuff. I forgot that's there. I should have deleted that.
And then I was like, oh shit, okay, so there's Cam Meets World, but I don't even know if that's your first. Like,
that's not technically my first.
Yeah,
no.
so you've
that's my first release as Cam Gnarly. But
yeah. Did you go by something different than Cam Gnarly before?
Yeah, I went by Kid Cam. I was in a group called the Hi Hats, like for like.
You were in a group. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, this is like. I don't know what time. What years? I say, what time was this? It was like a long time ago.
Fourscore
in early 2000s ago. Like I was, you know, in a group with some people who were older than me, so they called me Kid Cam. I never had a rap name, so that was, you know, when Cam Gnarly was something that came after all of that. Like, and in that space too, we did some cool stuff.
I don't even know your real name. Is your real name?
My real name is Cameron. Yeah.
Oh, it's Cameron. Okay.
Yeah. So for me, it's the same. I always wanted to be an artist though, ever since I was little. So, like, I was a visual artist at first. I could sing, and I could like play instruments and stuff like that. I did like little plays and stuff like that when I was in elementary. But like, I always either stay with music or
that's one of the elements that's crazy about you too. Is like, you know, not only like vocally do you do the presentation or create the soundscape, but then like visually you create it. You know, with music videos that are like very. Dude, those videos are like legit dope.
Thank you, bro. Thank you. I take that shit very serious.
You did a shot where you're in front of like the Carousel Mall.
Mm-hmm.
That's an epic shot, dude.
That shit gone now too. It's crazy.
R.I.P. Carousel Mall.
R.I.P. It's a time capsule now.
Yes, and it was just very classic. You know, right away from the beginning of the video, it's classic. And I thought that was also dope. But like, you know, that's an element to my point that you're kind of well rounded in that aspect too, because you also have that fashion element to it. I think you bring that as well, and then also music videos. You have the scene, the aesthetic of it is dope. It matches what you're presenting, you know, audibly.
Yeah.
Just sick.
Thank you, man.
What was the motivation to do Carousel Mall? I mean, obviously it's iconic spots, brings memories.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, that too, just the memories. You know, I used to go there when I was younger, but also about branding my music with my community and it being so tied. You know, the stories, the things that I'm talking about being so tied to where I come from and where I'm at. Like it only makes it like to me it's very logical. Like I'm just like, oh, of course I'm gonna go to Carousel Mall. Of course I'm gonna put Loved Ones in there. Of course I'm gonna go to the Waterman. Like these are spots that I actively be at. So those people that really know me. They know like, oh, that's really how he is. Yeah. And then for the people who don't know and they're learning about where I come from through me, this is what it is. Or
what's
like, this
crazy
is
that San Bernardino used to be like popping.
Yeah.
You know, which is crazy.
Yeah,
it's a real blue collar town.
Yeah,
it was
crazy. And it has its own story, and it's cool. Like, you know, seeing it from your perspective coming through San Bernardino.
Yeah,
and I'm calling it the Dino.
Yeah, that's what we call it too. Yeah.
It's dope. So for those who don't know, Cam Gnarly has recently released Northend. This is a must-grab album. It's super dope from first listen to the end. It has some classic joints on there already. I mean, you kick it off already with Dino USA. That's already freaking an iconic track.
Thank you, bro. Shout out to Zen Beats.
And even deep diving into the album cover art, I can definitely see that this totally emphasizes the community.
Yeah.
And then this is your visage in the middle of it, and you're a part of that said community.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. What was besides my assumptions on it anyway, but what was the overall overall idea for the album cover art?
Well, shout out to my homie De La Graham, who designed the cover art and the art design as a whole. We went through a lot of a lot of processes. I had the intention for this album because it came, sometime after COVID. I felt like I was just like rediscovering myself musically and going through a lot of changes in the process. So, having songs like The Nine and stuff like that, and feeling like feeling the community come back to me, especially when COVID happened. Like, I started to, tighten up loose screws in spaces where I was like, oh, wow, I didn't even really realize I wasn't paying attention to this. Or also like feeling that energy being reciprocated back from my community. And I was like, oh, well, like now I want to, it's made me want to take like a song like The Nine and turn into a whole album, like where I can, go more into depth about like, what it is and who I am, and, kind of like a restart of sorts. So doing that, I wanted to brand myself with my community musically. So everything on this album, visually, to the songwriting and stuff like that, was gonna have San Bernardino stuff intertwined, and then finding that theme musically, then linking up with De La Graham. He listened to the project, he was hearing what I was saying, and then he was like, I got this idea. He had seen something, I got this idea, we can do something like this. And, you want to brand yourself with your community. So you want people to think of you when you talk about San Bernardino. So you want to see yourself in the city. So then that was like something we kept doing. So we tried to do like these drone shots and stuff like that. And it was, we went through all these different like preferences, and then we started looking up old San Bernardino like nostalgic items and stuff like that. Because as I'm also working on the artwork, working on like what we're going to intentionally do in the visual. So, we're creating a list of like what we're going to do and where we're going to pull it from, basically. So in that, we started seeing all the Route 66 postcards and stuff like that, which is something that's very popular for San Bernardino at that in our early days. Yeah. So we started working on that, and then we took that street of, once we realized the album's going to be called Northend, the street you take going up to the north end is East Street, and you take that all the way. You can take that all the way up to the north end to the point that you're like up in the mountain, but it goes all the way through San Bernardino. So then, we were looking at the postcard, and we just like wanted to create the community and bring back that feeling of like that Route 66 or what it used to look like back then when we used to go as kids, and looking at the pictures and stuff like that. So then we just kind of recreated that and kind of used the lighting of the image to like illustrate like my image in it. But
that's dope, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always feel like, artists kind of forget the cover, or don't really put the intention behind the cover. I feel like that gets missed a lot. So it's cool that you also added that to the element. One of the things, part of our show is like we always cover the cover. Yeah. Every album we go through, and we talk about, how does this connect to the whole album? How does this connect to the idea? How does the title connect to everything that they're saying? So it's dope that it's all cohesive and then it all blends together.
Yeah. When we went the postcard route, that's why, to make the project that restart of reconnecting with people and talking about where we from and where we're going to go next, it was very like, oh, okay, like this is a postcard from the Dino to everybody else. So that's what made the postcard aesthetic work. And then we had to create the image in the back and the letter, like creating that little notation and using all of the song titles in the letter. Like that was just really fun to do creatively.
Yeah, really sick, man. I'm curious because when I looked back at your Bandcamp, I saw, there's an album in there, Cam Meets World. And when I was going through that, I was listening to that, I'm like, damn, dude, it sounds like you're already pro at that time. It sounds already like it's like polished already. So, I'm just curious, like, about that project and, creating that project. Were you recording like in a studio, or were you recording at home? Or
we were recording my homie's home studio in a room like this, and my homies would be partying in the living room, and I was in there recording, because back then I'd be with a bunch of people too. Like that album, the features on there, I think it's like DC, Aaron Mays and Jaime the Jedi, and those are the early days of me working on music, being out here in like Rialto, Bloomington area, and that was like the the Airborne days, the Curly Fam days. So all of that was just like I don't know. I feel like I was still trying to find myself at that time. Like the music, like I feel like the messaging was there before I really knew what I was doing. Yeah. I was just making, the kind of rap that I had in my head. And then, over time, just listening to people and listening to people I work with. I remember my homie, we were just in like Ontario somewhere, and he was like, "You're doing this flow where I hear that you're writing it in your head with a melody, but why won't you deliver it in a melody?" And I was like, "I don't want to sing." And he was like, "But you sound good." And I was like, "But I want to rap." But he was like, "But you are rap." It was a whole thing, but it kinda,
hours later we came down to the conclusion.
But it kind of goes back to your other question about like, where are these moments where I was like, this is the stuff, this is what I should be doing. Even in the idea of making music, or just these moments that pushed my music to this whole nother spot. And I can remember some of those times where I was doing one thing and somebody said something that gave me a different perspective, and then I approached it differently, and it took the music in a whole different place. Like, I hear some of that stuff. Like, I haven't listened to it in a while. Maybe you could tell me, but
I would say
on
like
there it doesn't have as much melodic stuff on there.
Yeah, it's more. It's a little bit. You could hear a little early seedlings of that, but yeah, you're right. It's not as melodic as you are now. Now it feels like you're more. You kind of mastered the song structure, element of it. Yeah. Whereas there, you could tell it's more like kind of more raw.
Yeah, I was just saying, like I said, I was just finding myself at that time, but.
You still had that, like, the reflective, like, spirit to it. Yeah. When you did like the me versus me and stuff like that.
Yeah. I'm just that type of. I'm just a weird person. Like, I wouldn't say weird, but like I'm very self-reflective, and just self-awareness. I feel like kind of bleeds into my music, because on my music is my medium to help me work through a lot of stuff, and I express myself through that. Music was that for me before I was making music, so. It's only right as I'm making music, like it's going to indicate like where I was, and I can listen to it and I can hear a bunch of stuff, and it has little to do with like the raps in it. It's just like these memories of like, and then this happened, and then I don't know, like the stuff that kind of made what the song turned out to be. Like, to me, that's what that is, like a little post-it note.
One of my favorites, jumping onto your other project, the Posi Prevails, is the Uber track.
Yeah, Cast One, my boy.
Uber track is sick. Yeah.
Thank you.
I don't know why, it just kind of fits, like, it fits, like, just the whole storytelling, like you being in this Uber and, like, this whole journey of the Uber ride. And then you end, like, kind of coming out of the Uber, I think, and, like, giving dap to somebody. Yeah. And it's, like, continuing on with your day like nothing happened. But, like, there was this whole, like, Uber experience. Can you just talk a little bit about that track? What was the idea behind that, and how did that come about, that track?
It's exactly like how you're saying. It was an Uber experience of sorts. Like, during that time period of doing that song and that project, I don't remember what came before that. I think GoPro was before the Posi Prevails. Yeah, so during that time, I was working with Cast One a lot at that time, and I would take Ubers to his house. Because Uber had just came to the Inland Empire, so I would do, back then I was like, I don't remember how I was making money or if I didn't have any money. So Uber was free back then. You would get 10 free rides.
What? I didn't know that.
As soon as you start, like, this is back when Uber like first started, so you get 10 free rides, and I would use those 10 free rides to get here and there and all over the place. And then once you run out, you make a new email and you do it again. So I would do that. I would do that to go to the studio. And it's so funny that I remember I wrote Levitate on the way to the studio one time with the Uber driver.
Classic too, yeah.
Yeah, I think about that song because of Cast One produced Uber 2, and we did that all around the same time. Like Levitate, Uber, Cabbage, like we're all in those same sessions. I recorded most of those at Cass's house. I used to go over there a lot. So, and it was over here in Rialto. So
that was when Cass was over here.
Yeah. Shout out my boy. And we got some new stuff actually. Really,
I remember when Cass was first starting, dude.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, man. He's different, man. Dude, he's different.
I used to play baseball with him and his brother, and then after a while, I was just like, yeah, there's this guy named Cast One that makes beats, and then I'm like, okay, cool. And I met him. I was like, oh, bro, what's up? Yeah. Like, we ended up finding out that he started making beats.
Oh yeah, he got serious. He got serious.
Yeah, he's hard. Yeah, he's hard.
He got serious, and now he's taking off. From
First
started him, dude's taking off.
Yeah, that's my boy. We're gonna drop some new stuff next year. We got some stuff in the works.
It's funny. Cam mentioned off air that I have a voice that emulates. I know. I'm trying to set him up.
Don't put it on me.
I'm trying to it came to the point where it's like, yeah, man, this particular host ends up indicting somebody. Man, Cam, you're probably indicting yourself right now with those Uber emails.
Oh man, no, they got their money. They got their money.
They do.
Yeah, it's all good. Yeah. Lyft, on the other hand, I can't use that at all. I'm not allowed to do that.
Oh man,
real talk.
Another classic one, the Juice. That one was another dope hook that you came up with, and I'm like, dude, I started like seeing this pattern of like, man, this fool was good at hooks, man.
Thank you, bro. Yeah,
it's like catchy as hell.
It's crazy because as MCs, you mentioned earlier, it's like we're always verse first.
Yeah, it's always really kind of verse first.
When you actually get to do the hooks first and then the verse as an afterthought, I mean, you pretty much you built the home.
Yeah.
You just got to put it, like, I think the verse at this point would be just like the drywall, insulation, everything else to put the finishing touches.
Yeah.
You know,
how is writing for you? Because for me, I've had its challenges. Like I know that, you know, with everybody, it's different. Their style's different. Some can do it right on the spot. Some take some time to do it. How is it for you? Do you usually like to do it like straight up on the spot and just bang it out, or do you like kind of take your time with it, or how does it work?
Both. I'd be putting pressure on myself, I guess, in those situations, because I went through a good time period where I was like, the job is to show up and make some fire off the top. You know what I'm saying? Like, I could take the time to do all this writing and living and writing and living, and then go to the studio and be in there. But I'm the kind of person sometimes where I gotta express what I'm living at the same exact time. So, you know, if it doesn't happen like that, and I don't get to that point where I'm like, oh, I forced myself, or I was inspired enough to like make something right then on the spot, and whatever that process looks like, then I'll take my time with it, and then I'll just start breaking it down and thinking about it more and rewriting things over and over again, just until I think it's as close to perfect or capturing like whatever the point is as much. So it depends on like the process. You know, some, like, for example, I remember writing Juice. I wrote that in the front seat of the homie Funky Garcia's Mustang.
That's dope.
And the homie Brian Folk, he produced that beat, and I remember being excited to hear that because he produced Cabbage, and Cabbage was a popular song at the time. So I was like, oh man, I need another one for bro. And he shot that, and exactly what I said on that is exactly what I freestyled in the car. So from the opening verse up until the Juice part to the end of the hook, I freestyled it, and then I wrote it down. And like I cleaned it up or whatever, but that's just what it was. So sometimes I try to go with whatever the first melody is that comes to my mind. That's the pocket. That's where I'm gonna go with it. Other times I'll give myself an opportunity to do that more than once. So, you know, I'll go with the fresh idea, and then I'll let it sit for a while, and I'll listen to it again and come with a different approach, or find a different pocket. And then if I want to add a little bit more, I'll find, you know, whatever the theme is from both of those parts, and then write another thing.
Are there ever tracks that you complete but you don't feel quite satisfied with it?
Yeah, all of them.
Yeah, that happens.
Yeah, all the time.
That happens.
Yeah,
because I have a track where, and Mark knows this, I've written to this track probably like four times. I have 4 different versions of this track.
Yeah,
but I just am like, so like, I'm just critiquing it so much where I'm like, it doesn't feel I don't feel the message that I wanted to express came out through that, so I'm not happy with it. So I was just curious, like, how often that might happen, you know, to an artist like yourself.
I just have to accept it sometimes, or surrender to the limitation of the song itself. Like, all right, that's it. There's not much else I can do, and if I force it, I may take it somewhere that don't make it a good song anymore. Yeah. So, you know, I'll make something really quickly, but I'll play it out. Like, I'll listen to it over and over and over and over again. I go to the studio a lot, and I'll make a song and I'll listen to it for like 3 weeks, like every single day, and then I won't listen to it for like a month or something like that. And then I'll go back to it, and it's kind of the same process. Just like, I'm working on the song until I put the song out for real. Like, once it's out, then I completely disassociate from it. Like, not in like a bad way, but I just mean like, I'm not thinking about that song anymore. Yeah,
because you kind of move on to the next, because you know you have more to write. Mm-hmm. You know, they always say like your best song is ahead of you. Like, you know, it's like that's what they're saying.
It's refreshing to hear it from the artist's perspective, because many a times as fans, we get these deluxe CDs with unreleased tracks.
Yeah.
And then we end up listening to these unreleased tracks, and the general consensus is like, why didn't they release this?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, so sometimes artists may get caught up in themselves like that too. And it's great hearing it from your perspective on that.
Yeah, it's dope. You know, your relationship with Noah James, like, I feel like you guys have a good chemistry together. How did that come about? Your
We came up together. He was a senior at this. We went to high school together.
Oh, you guys were in the same high school.
So we went to the same high school, and then when I started making music, like the people we were hanging out with, the homie I was working with, his girlfriend and all her friends were like, "Y'all's music is so good. Y'all should come throwing this show in Riverside." So we like, "Oh, let's go." And they didn't even want to go, and I went. I went and my cousin came with me because how I even got into making music, I bumped into my cousin because I was just freestyling. I wanted to make music, but it wasn't working. Like the people I was around or whatever, I just wasn't recording anything. And I always had this homie in my ears like, yeah, like you talking a lot about it, but we ain't gonna make it. So that would really, that would just like be like, all right, bet. Like it's like so.
You always need that sometimes. Somebody around you push you a little bit. Yeah.
For sure. And then my cousin took me to the studio, and then it was those same people I worked with, and then from there we went to this show. And when I went there, I didn't recognize anybody except for Noah. And then from there, like a few months after that, they started throwing Common Ground, and I was a regular attendee. I would go all the time and kind of work my stuff out. I was still in that group at that time, and we did a couple of shows there, but we would do mostly shows in LA and Vegas. Like we would open up for a lot of people. So even back then, I was opening up for people. So I feel like I got good on the stage from just being active. Even though my music wasn't great, I was still like on stage a lot. So I was like figuring it out.
Yeah.
But so yeah, that's how we came up, like doing the Common Ground, and then just kind of realizing that, as we do music, people, especially doing music in a spot like the Vibe, like there was a lot of people. We all it was kind of like a collegiate in a way, you know what I'm saying? Like we were a bunch of creative people from all around the Inland Empire, all working together, Moreno Valley, Rancho, people going as far as Chino, Riverside. So,
which is crazy now because now Inland, the IE is kind of known outside of just the IE now, which is dope. But because of things like that going on, like early stuff of that going on is the reasons why now, like when I would talk to like Necro or somebody bigger, they'd be like, "Oh yeah, I know IE." Yeah. Or Nas or somebody, it's like it's crazy.
Yeah, I like the fact that throughout this interview and throughout a lot of your overall message is about the community, and I think a lot of artists tend to skip over that. But knowing it's good for the self if you do feel that internally to express it about the community, but then it's also great from a marketing standpoint as well to get involved too, because then you got the people in the community like, oh yeah, he's from San Bernardino, oh he raps, and then that ball starts rolling too. People tend to forget that. You know.
Now, recently you got recognized at the now Empire, I think it's called.
The Only Empire Awards.
Empire Awards. Yeah. You got recognized. I think it was Best Song of the Year, right? Wasn't it?
Yeah, Song of the Year for
how does it feel to like get recognized now for like because I don't even think we had anything like. Did we have something like that last year?
We did have one last year too. The first time they did it was last year.
Yeah. That's the first time they did it. It's dope that they're starting to do that now.
Yeah,
because it really puts on like artists, in our area.
Yeah,
and that's dope because people need to hear what's going on in here.
Yeah.
But how does that feel to get like recognized for like the work you put in? Because that's sometimes you don't get recognized as an artist. You can put out some great stuff and never be recognized, and it's kind of crazy, But how does that feel to get like recognized for something that you put hard work into?
It's really dope. It's really cool. It feels, it's an honor for real to be honored by the people in your community, whether it be.
Because there's a lot of dope artists out here, So
there for real. And all I can say is, I'm just super thankful for it. This album in particular has like garnered a lot of other type of attention that I've never experienced before. And, it feels really dope that I could put out a body of work that was like received. I can feel one of my first bodies of work, in my personal opinion, maybe for other people, they already felt like that, but for me, this one was like, this one really connected like all year. Like no one asked me for anything else. Every time I talked to someone, they were still talking about that. So I was like, all right, dope. You know what I'm saying? Like I've been that person before to talk to an artist and be like, I remember I had bumped into the Cool Kids one time and they had dropped.
Oh yeah.
They had just dropped an album, and I love the Cool Kids. And I remember saying to Chuck, I was like, bro, this album is hard to do. Like, when y'all gonna drop again? He looked up at me. He was like, bro, we just dropped. He was like, what do you want? Like, what did you want?
The bake sale.
Yeah, no, yeah, I think it was it was in like 2017 or something. Like that.
Okay.
It was the one where they're standing on the Jeep, like, or Mikey standing on the Jeep or something. I don't remember the name right now, but
so good.
But yeah, I just like I remember thinking that, and that always stuck with me too. I was like, yeah, for real. Like, what's wrong with me? Like, let me enjoy this. You know what I'm saying? But
so let the ink get wet on the cover.
Yeah, for real. So I've been in that. I've had that experience happen to me before too, where I just dropped something. So I was like, we gonna drop again? I was like, all right, bet. Like, so this one was dope. Like, I put it out in December. It's almost a 1 year anniversary for it. I might throw a little something, but in March I got the Citizen Award from the mayor's office.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that
from
up.
that from this album too, and I was like, damn. So for it to go throughout the whole year, because last year I was nominated for some of the songs on here too, but the album wasn't out yet, and I didn't win. It was a sucky night, not because of that. I had a great time at that, but it was just a bad day that day. So when I think about that, I was like, yo, that last year on that day it sucked. So for this year to actually win, and my homies won too. Shout out to Phantom Thread, got album of the year too. That was produced by my homie Waju. You know, those are my close friends in music, and you know, it's just really dope to see not just myself get it, but other homies that I like or I'm a fan of their work, to see them get honored, because that's how you build that kind of infrastructure as well for the artist, for the medium that's honoring the artist, for the people who are just finding out about it. Some people found out about the awards and the artists from the awards, but you have to have that. You have to have something like that just to get those kind of eyes. You know what I'm saying? So we all work together in that. So it's dope.
Yeah, that list was a little controversial.
I'll tell you one thing.
Oh,
people
man.
found out about that list when they weren't
People
on that
were mad
50
about
MC list. Be real with me. You gotta let me
It
know
was
how
such an obscure number too. I think it was like 75.
Yeah, like 75, 50.
Yeah.
But any list is gonna.
It's like it's funny too, because they're reading the cuts like in a basketball trial. It's like,
exactly.
What?
Crazy.
Yo,
let me comment about this.
That caused you could say controversy, but if you're not on the list, you're not on the list. My main thing to that is that it sparked somebody that's not on that list is going to show up on that list. The next year.
Yeah.
You know, and it's you want to talk about people being hurt?
Yeah.
And dude, I've never heard of any of these rappers besides that. And I'm like, damn, there's people out here like really like wanted to be on that.
But it's cool though. It's cool to see, something being stirred inside.
Yeah.
Which is cool. That shows that you have a hunger, then prove it and be there. Then.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Will you guys be on the 23 hot that's hip hop top MC list? Find out. The 23. We're gonna make a random number.
Y'all should make a list.
Like a random number of like 52.
Just a random number.
Bare minimum, it just, like you're saying, like it sparks people to get upset, or you learn a new artist that you're gonna check out and listen to. But either or, whether it's love or hate, it's gonna get something.
It's still gonna get attention.
Y'all should make a list.
Yeah, it's gonna get attention either way.
What'd you think about that list off the jump though?
What are your thoughts about the rest of the list?
I don't be thinking about those things, but it, like I said, it was dope to see. I knew some of the names on there, some of them I didn't know some of the names. So I was like, oh, this is dope. Or I know that name. I'm like, oh, y'all know them too. That's dope. You know what I'm saying? So I don't, I don't really.
Cool, man. It's like a lot of Easter eggs, man.
Shit.
We know. They know. They know.
I want to talk to you. I want to go back a little bit, back and forth. I'm sorry, I'm messing up probably the genealogy.
No, it's fine. Yeah, we talking.
But GoPro, like the idea of that, I thought that was dope because one, it's wordplay, like GoPro Cam, like the Cam, and GoPro at the time was kind of like coming out and doing its own thing, which was dope. A lot of people were jumping on that because just you're able to bring the experience with you, which is dope. But like you really took that and then like kind of made this whole thing with it. Can you just talk about like that, like just the idea behind that, and because you made that to be actual album title. So I just wanted to hear from your end, like your perspective of like what was the idea behind it.
That was like just a mentality at that time. I feel like for that project and the Posi Prevails, as I was going into it after that project, was just like I wanted to go professional. I feel like at that time I was seeing a lot of other artists, and I wanted to achieve a higher level of connection with listeners to my music. I was also like wanting to, elevate myself to, work at a higher capacity, like, kind of be at a higher level for real. So for me, that was like, I got to go professional. Like I got to really go pro. And then kind of like breaking it down, I think I said something like I was trying to provide for myself at this time. And it was like a breakdown. It's like go pro was like a mixture. I ain't listened to it in a minute, but it said something about like going pro. And then it's like go provide, go produce, go prevail. Maybe not prevail.
Emphasis on the PRO.
Exactly. Yeah. It was like a bunch of different flips of what the pro was or like what that meant to me. So, but every time I think about it though, the first one that always comes to mind is go professional. That was the one. And then second one's always to go provide, go produce. Maybe it's just go pro after that. Yeah.
I love that though. I love that, because you miss a lot of those kind of messages in music, especially these days. A lot of the messages are just, they're not that. They're more like geared negatively, like, so it's just kind of refreshing to hear, someone with this message that's just like, you would think it would be, everybody would be on that kind of wave.
Yeah.
But not everybody is, And then, so that's also dope. But at the same time, as much as you are on that wave and that positivity, don't get it twisted, because I've heard some tracks where it's like you go hard too, I can't think of it in memory right now, but it's seeded all throughout your discography. There's tracks on here that just go hard, I think more of like, you have more of an edge on certain tracks where the beat probably dictates that, but you have that in you as well.
Yeah.
So that's also dope. Like I've heard you on a track with Triz. Let's bring that one for you.
Oh, yeah.
And Triz automatically.
That song is a great example of that.
Yeah, Triz automatically, when you have him on the track, I know he's already going to go that route.
Yeah.
And so it's like, you match the energy of that.
Yeah, peace to Triz.
Which you did it in your own way, which was cool.
Yeah.
Can you just
I remember
talk about that? Like
that song specifically, or just like that?
Even that, yeah.
Well, I remember we did that. Shout out to the homie Cairo and my brother Triz. We go way back. But yeah, I think we were working on. We did that at No Interference with Brooke and Cairo. We were in the studio. Cairo just brought Triz over, and we were working on something. We were like, let's just make something right now, and that was really the energy. But I feel like my personal preference is definitely like I'm trying to move in a way of least resistance, and I feel like that speaks in my music. I'm just trying to keep the balance within myself all the time. Yeah. So that energy comes out in my music. But the reason why I'm trying to keep the balance in myself all the time is because sometimes the scale may tip to the other side a little bit too much, and and certain other artists will give me the opportunity to kind of express that in a way, or more than that too. I just, like you said, it's kind of seeded through the music. Like you can hear it. For people who can who listen to my know what my chosen brand is. Like that's the mentality is the duality of choosing positivity, but to have one, you got to understand the other. So I really I'm as actively as I'm trying to find balance in myself on a good side. I know my shadow very well, and and I know I'm saying the kind of bullshit I can bring if I want to, what I'm saying. So in that, certain songs like the one with me and Triz, I get to talk my shit a little bit more as opposed to times where I'm really not making the song to talk my shit. That wasn't the purpose. But on that song, I'm talking my shit.
A song to let off the steam.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think, just in hip hop itself, there's always that track, one or two that are like that, because it's very, you have that vibrato, right? Like,
you make a good point that the instrumental sometimes brings that out. It dictates
that as well, because the instrumental already did kind of dictate that. It felt harder, it felt more grittier, so that also kind of dictates that too. I wanted to talk about a little bit, your relationship with, or your work relationship with A. Brook, because you've worked with him as well.
Yeah.
And I always feel like when you guys come together, there's always something magic that also happens. Yeah. Particularly, there's a couple of tracks, the 9, I think you produced, right? And then also Top Notch.
Yes.
Another big track. Big.
That was a
Two
big
big
one.
tracks.
That was a big one.
Yeah. Can you Top Notch? Let's go there. Top Notch is such a dope track, dude. I think that one probably really stood out to me. Yeah. Hit me hard, from the outside perspective, because it's hard to get people to listen, for the first time, right? That song brought me in, I think. And then I started like, oh shit, this is sick. And then you listen to the rest of your discography. But how did Top Notch, the idea of that, come about? Just the Top Notch, even that phrasing.
That time, well, I think the that time period for real, like I think the last project I had put out after, the last thing I had put out was The Posi Prevails, and the popular song at that time was like The Nine and Levitate, which I was cool with, but I wanted more calling card songs, like songs where, because I was finding myself in a lot of spaces at that time where you got one song, you know what I'm saying? I'm about to play this one and it's going to cut through. I've been, Levitate is one of my oldest songs, and people still request it, and I perform it, and it connects every time. Same thing with, I don't do Cabbage as much, but when I do it,
that's a good one too. Yeah.
that shit is like that song on TikTok is ridiculous. People, all you Cabbage makers who decide to pick that song every time, I am tagged in hundreds and hundreds of videos of people and their cabbage recipes, and it's my song. Even to the point somebody put a caption like, "There's a stupid song for everything." like that shit is like, listen, so at that time I was like, I want some more.
You're all Jordan shrugging it too. You're
I'm like, fuck it, like shit, like run up my shit. But anyway, like I wanted more calling card songs. You know what I'm saying? I remember someone that said some shit like, oh, you got the Cabbage song. I'm just a Cabbage guy. I was like, oh, I never again. Like, you never gonna call me that again. Yeah. So after that I made that year, I think it was like maybe 2017, 2018, I made The Nine, we made Shorty's World, we made Top Notch, and I didn't put out nothing else for that whole year, and up until working on Nirvana, because I think Top Notch is on Nirvana. Yeah. So I put those 3 songs out, and I just worked those 3 songs for like a whole year, and I didn't drop nothing else. And I would tease the newer stuff like that by performing some of the songs. So doing those songs, Top Notch it just captures my thought process at that time, where I was really like rapping my ass off and making some of the best songs that I ever made, and locking in on delivering an album that captured that. Like one of, if not like my first big album, and Nirvana was that.
Is one of the more difficult tasks, because for artists, the first thing I get from me when I hear a beat like that, I know, oh, that's something different, but for me, one of the hardest things is to start it. Where do I start? Like, what is this saying? How do you work that process out when you first hear a beat and finding out, like, where am I going to start with this? Like, how did you work that out with Top Notch? Do you remember?
I think I wrote the first verse. This is what I wrote the first time I listened to it. I remember writing Rich and Game, Fortune Hall of Fame, Clean Without a Stain. That was the first thing I wrote, and I was like, oh, this is going to be hard. And it's so funny, too, because that was around the same time that I had locked in my first distribution deal with Alpha Pup Records. So I would record at Cosmic Zoo in Glendale out there. And that's where like Kamasi Washington would record at, and Thundercat would be over there, and Alpha Pup was handling like all of these underground Brain Feeder people would be there. And they would also film those like little freestyles there. So I'll be around a lot of people. I met Blue around that time. That's how I blew it up on the album, because I was at that studio all the time.
A-Brook mentioned Flying Lotus or somebody?
Yeah. Brain Feeder is Flying Lotus's label. So they would all be at this studio. So I felt super honored to record there. So when I made the song originally, I made it at Brooke's house just on a random, because they had invited us to go to the studio at that time. We were already working on this. So I was like, Brooke, bring your hard drive. We're going to go over here. I got the session booked at Cosmic Zoo. We're going to go here. And I got the beginning of this song because I did it at his house.
Like the verse or the hook? Or
the verse and the hook. I did it at his house. It was already, Top Notch was the first verse and the hook. And I did it at Bro House. Right, like a day before the studio, because we were just working out the shit before we went over there. Because, you never know who you're going to bump into. I just wanted to know what I was going to work on. So we got all that together, and I re-recorded it there, because I did like a rough demo where I was like, oh, this is gonna be the song, like this is a bang. And yeah, it was like me and Brooke and Pablo, and we rode over there. Then we recorded it, and I remember that shit was smack. And I remember going to the back room, because Common Zoo had like the front room studio and a big sound room where, because they record bands in there, live instrumentation. So the recording booth was a room. And then another room was like a little lobby room you could see through the glass. And I remember I had finished it, and I was about to move on to the next thing. And Brooke came up to me. He's like, I think I got a second verse. Damn. And I was like, I ain't going to hold you, Brooke. I was like, if you don't go hard on this, I will not let you get on this song. Like, and he was like,
what's crazy is that we had two different perspectives here, because A-Brook, the way he poised it was like, oh, well, Cam said, you want to get on this? Like,
no, but
he wrote it like.
Well, he was writing. That's the thing. He was already writing, and I noticed him writing. So I remember saying like, yo, What you doing? and then when he showed me what it was, I was like, all right, bet. And he did it. I think he did it in like 2 takes for real. And I was like, he's like, what you think? I was like, that show's hard. Yeah. And then I think it was that up for a minute too. And then I remember having that song for a while because, like I said, we listened to it over and over and over and over again. And I remember I hit up like this R&B singer. I sent it to her. I was like, what do you think of this? And she's like, it needs a bridge at the end. Like, it's a good song, but it needs this little bridge. So then the next time we went, we added that bridge, and then that was that. And then from there, it was super important to like make a really good video to capture the energy of that song. And that video was just so fun.
Task in itself to try to match what the visual you have in your mind to actually putting that out. That's a whole task in itself. To do that.
Yeah, I remember taking that shit so serious because it was such a banger at the time where I knew. And then when he was like, I got a verse, and I was like, do you want to like, you got a verse?
Yeah,
you know, and like he.
Because you don't want to mess a track like that up.
It's
high stakes.
He really did it. He really. Because I remember anytime I was doing a Ponsu beat, though, Brick was like, I'm trying to get on it. Because Ponsu had some bangers at that time. Ponsu did Top Notch, he did Audio Coupe, he did Rain or Shine. You know what I'm saying? So, so when I remember doing those ones, Brick was like, I got some shit. Because, Ponsu's beats was crazy. So, shout out to him and Ethan. But, that was, those days. Those copies.
It's funny too because in the beginning of the music video, you're I think the car breaks down. Was that the 9?
Oh, that's the 9. That's the 9.
Yeah. That one was funny though because that one breaks down. But then on the video for
the video for Top Notch, we're doing like a dance routine.
Yeah, you're yelling at them. You're like, "Come on, Pablo!" And you can see him break character a little bit, like as you're like yelling at them, which is dope.
Yeah.
And then you guys cut into like the actual video, or whatever, which is dope.
That's a cool thing to know. Now we have the cheat code. Like anytime Cam Gnarly needs a ride to the studio, we just go with him. Like, hey, we got verses.
Type shit, you might be able to. It is like that too. You know, I've had homies who be like, "Yo, can I get?" You know, I had a little idea. Can I get 5%? Can I get 5% of that?
They're gonna look at the album like, "Who's this?"
Like, I was there. You know what I'm saying?
The guys from that tip up just tagged along.
Yeah, for real. Sometimes I've definitely it's happened like that before. I promise you. I've had somebody in the studio before, and I was like, "Man, we need a." And it's just like, hey, come here, just say this.
Like some half-baked guy on the couch shit.
Seriously, you know, like I was.
You there?
Yes, come here. Like, I got just say it like this. You know what I'm saying? Like it was like it's just really fun being just collaborating with people. Like I feel like Brick is such a good engineer too. So the song was already like in that space. So I already know like as much as I was listening to it, he was listening to it too because he was engineering it. Right. And we would do these sessions together. Every time we work on it, hours and hours of like chopping it up and it should sound like this and him and I going back and forth about it. But that was one of them songs where we like easily agreed like, oh, it's a banger.
Yeah. And the experience is there. I mean, you guys have done music separately for so long and A. Brooks done it.
I remember so many stories. We'd be chilling, and A. Brook would write verses.
He showed me Reason. That's how dated it goes, man. So, like it's been a long time. So the experience is definitely grounded in that, and it tells when you guys send that track off.
Yeah, Nirvana's definitely a special album.
That was
that's.
It's one of my favorites out of your discography. It's a very special one. Same. Audio Coupe, that was that one that was mentioned. A. Brooks said that was like one of his favorite verses of all time that he's done on that track because he felt like he was able to deliver something that captured like what he was going through from like 2017 to like at that time, whatever that was. Yeah. So that was also just something like it's cool to have these stories behind like albums like that. Like, these are people's experiences and stuff like that. There's this guy, the DC3.
DC.
Who is this? Because I see him repeatedly like kind of in your albums.
He's a part of the Curly fam. He's an artist from the IEs from
dope.
Yeah, so he used to be like he's like a turn up artist, high energy artist. But we were in a collective together for a long time. So, when I was working on the album, I liked the way I was feeling about it, like I was trying to pull everything up until that point. So I was really like excited to get him on the song. I was playing the album for him. I was like, you should throw a verse on here. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is my shit. Like, do it. So he just went off.
Awesome.
And then you do a track, yin yang. I see the yin yang imagery kind of populate there, like from time to time. I think you talk a little bit about that. So like with your positive energy also comes like kind of the other side of it. That's from too. So that's also dope, dude.
Yeah, shout out to Miyagi on there.
Oh yeah, that's right. I saw there was a name Miyagi That's dope because that makes me think of like freaking what you call it,
Karate Kid?
Karate Kid. Dude.
Yeah, you should check out he has this collective called Death Proof Inc. They're like mostly like black hip hop punk music, but it's hard though. It's really dope.
Damn.
You should check him out. He goes by the Miyagi or the Godfather. He's hard.
You know, going on to some of the other projects like 333 Hertz.
Yeah.
I didn't connect the 333 where that came from. Could you help me kind of understand what that is about?
It's like a number I would see a lot growing up, but it's also like a personal family thing. Like me and my brothers all have the same initials, and we have the same, C's the third letter of the alphabet. So this is like a thing that would be reoccurring in my life. I see so many 333s at that time. And at that time, I was seeing all kinds of like just numbers and stuff like that, going through like a lot of shifts. And, I'm one of those people who just be noticing little weird stuff like that. And that being a part of it, then I started looking into it, and 333 being a healing frequency. And I was just like, it's like dope. I'm going to call the album this. And then I even think back then, Brooke was like mixing the audio to 333 hertz too at that time, just on weird songs and funny shit. But it was just a prominent number at that time, and I was gonna call it 333, but I wanted to specify frequency, so that's why I put the hertz on there. So I would call it 333 hertz. Some people call it 333 HZ, but that's where that 333 came from.
Off camera, me and Cam were both looking at Lower Marion jersey from Kobe Bryant, and it does have 33 in the front.
I'm looking at it.
In the back.
That's what I'm looking at.
Off camera, you guys, we'll be able to provide the graphic for you guys. But
you can see it on my camera. Yeah. You can see it. That's crazy. As you were talking about that.
I was
just like, well, this is
it happens a lot. It happens a lot. It's very normal. I'm really tapped in. I'm really tapped in. I'm telling you.
Wow, dude.
I don't talk about it too much, funny. But it's very, very accurate.
That's funny, dude. That album is pretty dope, man. I love, it's just, dude, you're just consistent, man. Consistently bringing like tracks that are just like you could just vibe to. There's some that you go hard on. There's like
that's one of those albums I wish I could have even did more to, because I put it out right during COVID. Like I think I put it out in March.
That's right
2020, so it just happened, and it's purple, and the purple and gold on there because Kobe had just passed too.
Oh, that's right.
So that was just like I just loved making that music after doing Nirvana, and it was such a prominent album for me at that time. I was able to work with more people that I was working with, and I was finding myself in new spaces and new opportunities and things like that. So that's why it was important to get songs like the homie Triz and Waju's on there, and Airplane James and stuff like that. Like it's just really dope. Like those songs are hard. Like some of my favorite songs are on there too.
Yeah, they're dope, man. I liked Shine. I thought Shine was a dope.
Yeah. That one, Time Is All We Have, is a personal fave on there. The homie produced who did
Mary
Another
Jane,
Life. Mary Jane.
You went into like the more like West Coast feel. I feel like it's dude, almost kind of like reminiscent of even Nate Dogg a little bit on that one. You don't normally like you have your own voice, but on that particular track, I was just like, oh damn, I feel like Nate Dogg energy on this one.
Yeah,
it was dope.
Yeah, thank you, bro.
And then Bigger Things was also another one.
Yeah.
Too Much was also sick too. Like
Too Much, yeah.
You have a good introspection, man, and you could really bring out feelings in a way that's just like hard to encapsulate. Certain feelings, or sometimes like even as an artist, when you write things, it's like it's hard to pin it down, without it coming off like there's a certain particular message that you're delivering, and that takes a master to be able to do that. So that's also sick, dude.
I appreciate you, bro, for real.
And then going on to Northend Gnarly, man, right away you start off with Dino USA, which is crazy. To start off like that, like that's such an anthem already for like you were saying you wanted to dive in deeper with the Dino and everything, and I was just like, damn, dude, that to kickstart the album like that was just, what are you going to hear next? Like, so I thought that was dope. Can you just talk a little bit about that particular track, like in creating that?
I already knew I wanted to make an album about the Northend of San Bernardino, and just San Bernardino in particular. Like you said, I just wanted to go deeper into where I come from musically. I feel like it's like in the music, and I talk about it here and there. It's definitely represented wherever I go, be that interview or shows or whatever. But to have an album that's about that, and as I keep going, it's just more and more space in between when I put out the 9, you know what I'm saying? And I was finding myself, I was like, I'm ready to kind of like what I was trying to illustrate with other songs. Like eventually I'm going to get over this and I want to make something else that is a new standard for when you think of a Cam Gnarly song, same way Levitate was, or Cabbage, or The Juice, or any of those songs that stood out. I wanted to give more of that, and I wanted to have that in my discography. Really, like people could go back and be like, "Oh, this is where he's from," and he made a whole album about it. You know what I'm saying? So that kind of it's for me, but it's for everybody from where I'm from, and kind of like capturing the stories of San Bernardino and the stuff. So those are my real friends on the audio clips and stuff like that. At the album that opens up with like that friend
stuff.
That friend I mentioned who was like, "Yeah, you want to make music, you talk about it, but you don't do it." That was him right there. Or or my homie said, another one of my best friends, "Oh, you want to talk about the Northend?" Huh? Like these are conversations with my real friends who we talk about this stuff, or our memories about growing up here in San Bernardino, and or not here, but our like where we were at that time. So knowing that, I just knew the song had to capture that, and I think I had already did Space and Opportunity was done since I did that during the 333 sessions.
Oh, okay.
Or even after that. Yeah, 333. Yeah, and Love Really Is and all that. I did that during those sessions. So that was like one of the first songs I made going into this new project. It was one of the oldest. So then I'd already did Blessed with Stress with. I'd already did That's Life.
Yeah.
So I knew I needed a good intro. When I was working with Ascend Beats, when we had did Blessed with, we had did Call In, Call Out, and we had did another song on his Mixed Bag project with Cassius Green, that Don't Miss. And we were just working on something, and me and Gold Rose were over there working on something, and he played the beat, and I was like, bro, this shit sounds cinematic. Like, this shit sound like you're opening like up into a movie, or you're about to tell a story or something like that. And I just knew that had to be the intro. So I listened to it, and then I wrote that, and he was really fucking with it. And it took me some time to get the hook right, because I didn't know what the hook was gonna be. Like, I really didn't know how to do it, because I was very intentional. Like, I have to. On this album, I was very intentional, so much more on the verses, that not as much on the hooks on some of the songs. And the ones that are focused on the hooks, I feel like you can kind of tell. But the other ones are like verse driven and story driven to like create a story for the whole album. Yeah. So it was important to have what I wanted to express for the opening verse to illustrate how I wanted to express about San Bernardino. I feel like I did it in the 9. In my head, I was looking at it like, oh, this is like a 9 part 2. You know what I'm saying? Like, but more specific to San Bernardino in particular, as opposed to just representing for like the whole 909. But so, telling that story, or like setting the backdrop, was really important. And that's why we did that on the visual too, where it's like this Google map and you're just zooming in from outer space on this area of San Bernardino. And I'm taking y'all from what it's like in the greater San Bernardino, the more lower you go into the downtown area, which is where I first started making music, right there off of 2nd Street at the Meadowbrooks. And then finding my, always having to go home and go up to the North End, where things are different. It's just as active, but active in a different way. Yeah. But my understanding of what it was like in other areas made it easy for me to navigate this, or at least I how I look at it now, because I feel like I avoided a lot of stuff, survived a lot of things, learned a lot of things along the way as well, and all of that just comes from my time in San Bernardino long before I was actually a rapper.
Damn, dude. Yeah, Blessed with Stress with, that was another good favorite one. I think that track was also, to follow up, Dino USA, that's like the perfect one to follow up with that.
Yeah, for sure.
But talking about Space and Opportunity, we want to talk about that one. That one I felt like it was different in a good way. It was different. I don't know what it was about it. It's just that it just felt like the music video matched it perfectly too. Like, being out there and just like nature, the landscape, getting your space, like that also matched it. Was that like in your head already before, like while writing the song, or did you think about that after? Or?
It was funny. The shout out to the homie Skywalker Mike. We do the brand Very Positive together, and we also DJ together too. But he produced that song, and it was during, COVID was just ending. It was wrapping it up, and I remember something. I was going through something and talking to him about it, and we were laughing about it. I was like, and I remember saying to him, I was like, man, whether I'm peaceful in my plans or what does it say? I'm peaceful in my plans. Oh yeah, so I said, So I was going through songs. Like, I'd be trying to be peaceful in my plans. A nigga want the hands or something like that. And then he was like, "That's a good song." He said, "You should make that a song." I said, "Oh God, I'm gonna make it a song." Watch, like. So then I ended up going through some of the beats that he sent me, and then I remember doing that, and very similar in that way. I think I went to the studio to work with Brooke on something for another artist, and she was doing a song. And then I was recording that song and she liked it and she was like, "I wrote this, what do you think of this?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, that should be the intro to the song." And then she also played the sax, so she did the saxophone on there, and that's
crazy.
How that
to sing
came to be.
And just show up, again, one of these show up things.
One of those show ups, you just were in the room, and
those are the best.
It was the vibe,
dude.
and we had already the vibe was already there because we had just did another record.
Yeah.
So we were like, "Oh, okay," like it just worked out like that. But that is how it started. Like, and then so much of my conversations with Skywalker Mike is what really made what that song was about, because he created the treatment for the video, because Skywalker is your homie who be in nature, you know what I'm saying? You call him and I'm like, "Where you at?" He's like, "I'm in Joshua Tree, bro." Like he be camping out, you know what I'm saying? I was like, "You out there in the dark? Like, you got a gun?" Like, or something. But like he's always like traveling somewhere, so he'll be camping a lot of different places. So when he he's talking to me about why he made the beat or when he made it, I just was capturing that, and I feel like that kind of played into why I wrote the verse that I did the way I did and what the hook was. Talking about just like it's space and opportunity, and he was like, "You should make that a hook," And I feel like that's a lot of the process sometimes too. I just
it's
be
so
like
crazy
saying
because
shit.
you wouldn't think like the phrase "space and opportunity" would work.
Yeah.
You're making it work.
Yeah.
What's crazy about
Well, that's the point. Kind of like the purpose of how I'm doing music is trying to paradigm shift stuff. You know what I'm saying? So make San Bernardino a positive place, even though we're talking about the negative of it. Right. But it's a positive song. And the same thing about the phrasing of space and opportunity. Those are fighting words. You know what I'm saying? Like. But but if you look at it from a different perspective, like who doesn't need a little bit of space and opportunity?
Yeah, that's why it's so.
It changes. It just changes the connotation.
Yeah,
so
it's super sick.
Yeah.
You had mentioned that you worked with. Just switching gears. You mentioned you worked with Kendrick Lamar. And I mentioned it because I didn't know, and I read something about you worked with him. And I was like, "What? Is that true?" And I was just like, "I just gotta ask the source."
No,
I didn't ask him himself.
I opened up for him at a show at the Glass House in the early years, around when I was doing Cam Gnarly's World and that music going into Go Bro.
Can you bring us into that day of what that was like? Because this is an earlier Kendrick, right?
Yeah. This was Section 80 Kendrick, and I'll never forget that performance too. It was super impactful, and I'm the kind of person, like, when I'm in the crowd watching a performer and watching them connect with everybody, I'm just like, "Oh, I gotta learn how to do that. Like, I have to learn how to do that." So I remember, shout out to my homies who were running this production company called Abstract Evolution, and I was in a group, and they were fans of the group when we were in college, because I was in the group with somebody I went to college with. So those are her friends. And then they got their money together. Like, I think bro's dad was like owned a factory that owned Zara. You know what I'm saying? Like, so bro had chili. So he had, he was like, me and my friends, like, we're going to make a production company and we're going to throw events, Cam, like, we want to get into the music. And it started from them being around our group and the stuff that we were doing, because they would buy tickets, they would support, they would help us do stuff, and they started making their own thing. So then they called me. And he was like, "Bro, y'all still in that group? You still in that group with the hi-hats and stuff?" I was like, "Oh, no, man." I'm working on my own music. And he's like, "All right, bet." So, we're me and the homies from Cal State, you remember such and such and such? I'm like, "Yeah, we're going to start throwing some shows. Can you put together a list of, like, some artists that we should book? Like, anybody because I was really into, at this time, it's blog era rap. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, and Kendrick had put out OD at that time, is a popular thing. And, for those that remember, Kendrick was popular on Twitter. Like, the music was a Twitter trend early, like when he was active on Twitter anyway. So I gave him a bunch of names, and they booked everybody I named. Like, they booked Currency, Dom Kennedy, YG, Janae Aiko, Casey Veggies, Schoolboy Q, and those are like the Pac Div.
That's crazy.
And those were the people I opened up for when I first started as Cam Gnarly, releasing music as Cam Gnarly. So I opened up for Kendrick and all those other people I named in the first 2 years of me being Cam Gnarly. So doing that, I was working out music live in front of people, songs that were not. I had no music out yet, but had the opportunity to be in front of the people that being in front of the fans of the people that I was a fan of. So, working on my music, trying to understand what I was in or have the opportunity to be in and elevate me and my homies at the same time. So it was a lot. We were doing a lot. It was a very fast-paced life back then, and definitely where I earned that gnarly name of just like, kind of having my hand in a little bit of everything at that time. And but yeah, being there and opening up for Kendrick at that time was really dope. I remember being just so focused and locked in on my set. And, I did well. I garnered a lot of fans from these shows, enough as well as for the homies to keep putting me on each show. Right. Like, because I knew I was going to be in it because they was rocking with me and I was helping them plan in a way, but it was never a conversation like, oh, we're going to go with somebody else kind of thing. Like, they would always be like, all right, bro, like, and then you're going to be you and this guy and this guy and this guy. So it was dope to, have the support of the people throwing the show, also have an opportunity to be in front of these crowds. And some of those people still listen to my music to this day from those shows. And then, but I'll never forget Kendrick's set. And this back when Schoolboy was just starting to put out music at that time, because he was a hype man like the year, like earlier in the summer. And Kendrick was just ISO'd this girl in the middle, and she was just like, happened to be looking away or something like that. And he was just like, everybody pointed at her right there. He's like, she's not looking, she's not paying attention. And then he was like, and everybody was like, and then he started doing he's like, everybody pointed at her like this. And then he went into the spiteful chant, I know a lot of people that smile in my face. And then just like going like that and watching everybody go in like that. I think that was the song. But like just watching everyone do it along with him. And then when he broke out of it and just started bouncing around the stage, like just like the crowd erupts and it's like the lights and everything, it was just like bro had it even then. And I would listen to Section 80 so much. Back then too, like, all my homies from then, we were really into that, like really into, I was already in, like I said, into blog rapping, into those artists that I named and everybody in between at that time. So to see the growth of the Kendrick at the time, who I remember was opening up for like Pac Div at another time, you know what I'm saying? And being able to come up around all these artists, because from doing those shows, I would, be around Pac Div and hang out around them and learn stuff here and there, be around Overdose and the Destos and Kent Jams and all them at that time. And then it got me other opportunities to be in other stuff. And, my pops being from Los Angeles, I was born in Los Angeles. I was raised in the Inland Empire. We moved out here when I was very young. So, but I would go back and forth between IE and LA very much. So when I started doing music, that was something I would do a lot, because I would go link up with my cousins who lived in South Central. So I would link up with other LA artists. And back then it wasn't really so much about like IE and LA and all that, because everybody was still coming up at that time, because LA's biggest staple at that moment was, West Coast hip hop. Right. We all said West Side, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, type, that's Ice Cube, that's Snoop Dogg, that's stuff that our parents were on to, and things that we grew up on and respected. But that New West, or the, what they were calling it at that time, of the Dom Kennedys and the Pac Divs, and seeing all that, like, it was really dope, because I was coming up right behind them and also building up for my own area. You know what I'm saying? So, it's something I learned by observation from watching those kind of shows, and then just watching how they grew and changed over time.
I seen them at the pop out, dude, and no background vocals. It's straight up him.
Yeah, man.
And he just barely had released these diss tracks, so like, for him to already memorize that, it's crazy.
Yeah, even he's professional. Even when he repeated the lyrics again, like, you couldn't even tell for real, and you just kept going.
So
and that's just super professional. But he already had that, like, back in 2012, like a room of 800 people or however many people. Like, it was dope to see.
Where are you when it comes to this the whole beef thing? Do you choose a side, or where are you at when it comes to that?
I mean, if you're paying attention, it's really hard to
movement, but like, there's beef going on. So like,
I mean, that's just so interesting. Like, just because my personal choice is positivity doesn't mean I don't understand what's happening or understand how you got to participate in that. Like, I've had to do battle raps and shit like that before. The job is to do the job. I feel like the expectation of somebody like myself to not works in my favor sometimes, you know what I'm saying? Because people may assume one thing while on the other end, I'm like, what the fuck You know what I'm saying? Like, but then, and I feel like that kind of mentality is kind of the point of view of why in one way we could turn this into that podcast easy, but like, but you know, just the point of view of Kendrick Lamar and what he represents as opposed to what he's capable of is, you know, he was looked at as an underdog in this situation, and one person. He, you know, that may be a handicap to some person. So that was an up for him, and even more than that, it was just, you know, one person played it better than the other. You know, there was a lot of times if I was looking at it just from, like, if I was playing both rappers in both, right. You know, there are ways. It's kind of like if you watch battle rap, there are angles that you could go in on if you can, and if you can do that and create that narrative to work, you know, then you win. We're just breaking down like a math, you know, like. So if you can do that, I feel like Kendrick just did something where it's like he just took you ever heard that 2 truths and a lie kind of thing? Okay, like, you know what I'm saying? Like if I see you got a blue hat on and I see that you got Chucks on, I can make up a lie about that hoodie if I can connect it in between. And so for the people to think that middle part is the main function, but all I really said is 2 facts, you know what I'm saying? And I tied them together. That's the whole point, you know what I'm saying? And I just feel like Drake just did a terrible job of wrapping us into what he was trying to do. Now, granted, he was shooting at a lot of people at one time. He should have, like I said, he underestimated his opponent where he should have focused on one thing at a time. Should have just went at one guy at a time. Should have been a song for everybody. But he didn't do that. So, you know, I feel like he did himself a disservice. And the narrative, he lost it. Yeah, he just lost it. It's sad, you know, but it's not even sad though. It's just like, it was entertaining. We win. You know what I'm saying? It was so entertaining. And, you know, it was just, and to see what it's becoming now, bro. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? It's
amazing. It sucks now. He's gonna get sued. He's gonna get sued by Drake now.
Well, it's not so much it's not a lawsuit. It's a petition for discovery of wrongdoing. But nonetheless, like the timing is terrible. How that will look in the court of public opinion, just paperwork in general. You saw what
he's already guilty in the court of public opinion.
In the court of public opinion, we just got Young Thug back, and your name is on paperwork. It's not the time to be on court paperwork. And they're using language like RICO for the people who just don't understand the music industry or don't understand nothing. You know, just a haphazard listener, like a Taylor Swift fan, who's like, "Have you heard Drake is suing Kendrick Lamar?" Like they don't know nothing, but that's what people are saying. Yeah. And that analogy is the same as the battle itself, like. The stuff that you allowed people to say about you and you can't dispel because it's right there. There is a piece of court paperwork that says Aubrey Graham on it. Now, are you suing Kendrick Lamar? No. But how are you going to tell Auntie that? She doesn't understand that. Yeah. She just going to tell everybody at church, you know, Drake is suing. He's suing everybody. So I love it though. It's great.
What are your thoughts about, because you know GNX came out, Kendrick released that, and on their first track right out the gate, he's letting, you know, he brings up Snoop Dogg, like I don't know who I could trust anymore. Yeah. But then he also says that line about you know, I let Lil Wayne down. And Lil Wayne he's already kind of made some noise like, oh, what? Like, don't wake this sleeping giant. What are your thoughts about him actually responding?
Well, I really think that was aimed at J. Cole, my opinion, because what he's flipping is J. Cole's his old song, Let Nas Down. Yeah. And the line opens up about an apology. Like, I don't want to see no apology. I want to see you geeked up, right? So he's using that preface to go into saying I let Lil Wayne down. But that's a flip of a J. Cole line. So if I was J. Cole, I hear that and be like, what the fuck? Like, you know what I'm saying? But it's also a fact that Lil Wayne is let down in some context. I don't look at it like a situation. I don't look at it like he's dissed him at all. He's just stating the fact. He seems very, very down about it. You know what I'm saying?
He's taking it like a shot. He's taking it. Like
yeah. Me personally disappointed. No, I'm not trying to see that from bro. And
you're not trying to see Lil Wayne respond?
Not at all. I don't really think he should have. If he wanted to be involved in this situation, he should have got at Kendrick when he was going after Protege. You know what I'm saying? You stayed out of it for so long, and now you're upset about the aftermath of a thing you acted like you didn't know was going on. It's kind of crazy. Or rather, I guess I'm disappointed at your obliviousness to what's going on. So it's almost like, like you shouldn't be disappointed. You should be ignoring this. Like,
Yeah, it's funny how disconnected he seems too, because the moment that someone else mentioned that he should be at the Super Bowl, I bet you he's thinking, yeah, I should be at the Super Bowl.
And those kind of people, you easily, you know what I'm saying? If that was how it happens, like, then you are easily influenced.
Like,
you know
woke up
like,
and it's like, yeah,
he should know who he is and what's going on. You know what I'm saying?
He's already a great cemented in hip hop history.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, there's really no reason to even be stirred up about this.
Yeah, in my opinion, it's just but it all speaks to a greater narrative and context that whether he's not grasping, but us as hip hop fans and listeners, we're watching all these pieces all play, and these are all connected. Yeah. So it's like, for him, it may be an isolated thing, like, oh, I'm just sad about Super Bowl. Like, no, there's a lot more you're probably sad about, but we're making those connections. It's like, you got to be aware of that. Like, that's just how things are. But, you know, I loved it though. Like, it made for a great year, and I identify with a lot of it. For real.
What are your thoughts about, like, the route that J. Cole took? Because he took this route of, like, hey, I want out of it, and, you know, he's released some tracks where he's kind of responded to the narrative about everything, and kind of, like, he talked about why he chose the way he chose. But what are your thoughts about that? Because I feel like it really harmed him now, and it sucks because he's such a great lyricist. Great songwriter, everything, but, like, I don't know how you eventually come out of this, like, you know, where he comes back into form again, like, where he is at. Like, what are your thoughts about him?
My thoughts about it, if I say I knew him on a personal level or something, I could say, and that means I have to really know him. Right. You know, I could say, you know, I feel you, bro. But on the other side, like I said, Auntie don't know you, so for you to put out a song, and it's just like the way you played the situation, you did yourself a disservice. So whether you did it for the right reasons on your personal level, where people who know you personally, or how you got to look at yourself in the mirror kind of thing, that's worth everything, bro. That's honestly priceless, and I feel you. But on the same time, you're in this medium where your personal victories and your outer victories may not always align. So if he's cool with it, I'm cool with it. But you, like, there's no disassociating the point that you kind of did yourself a disservice because you participated in something that you felt bad about. And that's honorable to say, my bad, I'm sorry. You know what I'm saying? But that doesn't mean that anybody else who's involved has to give it to you. Kendrick doesn't have to say, okay, I accept your apology. No, he's going to say, fucking apology. You should have did what I'm about to do. So it's, you know what I'm saying? Like, so if I knew him, I could say, like, I feel you, bro. That's hard, I guess. But on the other side, just as a listener fan, like, oh damn, like, if I was a big diehard J. Cole fan who he's like, he's the one, he didn't show me that.
Yeah.
Cam,
go ahead, Mark.
There was one thing about this after you ended up talking about the Northend Gnarly album.
Yeah.
What in general, and I would say this, what would be one thing that you'd actually, like, want your fans to know that you haven't told them before? Like, and I only say this because you're on a podcast with us at the interview level, and this would be a perfect platform for you to,
for this album or
in general,
what?
in general, yeah.
Something that comes to mind right now is that I want the listeners to my music to know that I care. And that I'm intentional about the care that I put into my art craft, into my art form, and where it comes from and where I'm crafting it from. I care to show you those lines of where I'm pulling from. But something came to mind as you're saying that too, in the process of doing that a lot of times, and also talking about this situation with the Kendrick and the whole thing, there's a lot of stuff that also you have to put to the side to be able to do that, to show that level of care, you know what I'm saying? Or that level of not caring, you know what I'm saying? There's a lot of ways to show you don't give a fuck. I'm going to have to show you another way I don't give a fuck in a different kind of way, and show a different level of care. So I feel like what a person who really, really enjoyed Northend Gnarly and what that is, you can expect something that's not that at all. That's what I want you to know.
Damn, that's dope. No, I love every, like, venture you go off onto each project. You're bringing another story, another element to the project. Like, it's dope, dude. It's cool to see the journey, you know. And I came in late in the fold, but even, like, looking back retrospectively, your stuff is aged well, you know, which isn't always an easy thing to do, you know. There's times where our stuff might not age well. Like we've talked about some older stuff, you know, but it's cool to see like the projects you have released, like officially, all that stuff is aging like wine, dude.
Yeah, thank you, bro. The goal is always to make timeless music.
Yeah.
Timeless music. I don't like to write in a way that makes it a time capsule. Sometimes it's necessary.
Yeah.
Depends on what's going on in that time. You know what I'm saying? But I definitely, the intention when I make music is that when you play it, whether you heard it for the first time today or the day I made it 10 years ago, it's going to hit. So.
Yeah. Well, fire, man. Did you have anything, Mark? Did you have another question?
Oh, no.
Okay.
No.
Well, I just want to say, you know, thanks, Cam, for being on this episode with us and for talking about your music and just your insights, you know, on the process of like making music. And that's always interesting to me because it's always like, you know, I'm always curious like how others do it, you know, and you're doing it on a higher level. So it's cool to kind of hear, you know, how you put music together. Yeah. For everybody who's listening, remember to go ahead and I'm going to put the link or whatever to your album on the bottom of the description. But Northend Gnarly, you got to check that out. Some classic tracks on this classic album. So you got to make sure you get your hands on it. But then also check out his other works too. There's just a lot of fire albums, you know, if you want to go back to even Nirvana or even earlier than that, like dude's been putting out some dope music. So
thank you.
Check it out. Peace to this episode. Thank you again, Cam, for joining us.
Hey, next year you might be on that's Hip Hop 17's best MC list.
I'm the 17th best rapper. I'm the 17th best rapper there is. In the world, though.
That's dope. All right, Mark, go ahead and let him have it, man.
To the MCs, if you drop a mic, drop a like. Peace to Cam Gnarly for being involved.
Thank y'all, man. Thank y'all so much. Have a very positive life. Create a very positive lifestyle.
Peace.
Yeah.
Let's just bust a track real quick. Yo.
Hey, yo.